Um, Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bantamweight Boxing Podcast. Pound for pound, the best boxing podcast around. That catchphrase just doesn't get old, does it? Anyway, I'm your host, Michael Waite, and join with me are three of my Waite brothers. Again, let's do it how we did it last week. Introduce yourself, going from the eldest down to the youngest. Say who you are, what you're about. Let's go.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Johan, fighting fit, ready to talk boxing.
Boom.
Boom.
Good evening, everyone. Jimmy here. Looking forward to getting into it tonight.
Hello to everyone listening. I'm Joe, or Ben Davison, as Johan calls me.
Yep.
Let's get into it.
I fucking told you to go with that, Joe.
Yeah. Joe Davison.
Special guest today, Ben Davison on the podcast. Next week will be Tyson Fury, hopefully. But so today we're talking about the Newcastle show. I don't think anyone wanted to miss this show. Massive fights on this card. Big names going on. Started off with Hughie Fury. He gets the win over Christian Hammer. Then there also was Eubank fighting. He was fighting a guy, I think, called Wank or something like that. And he performed pretty much like that as well. So, and then finally we had Savannah Marshall, who put on a brilliant display. Woo! Also, aka the love of Johan's life. Right. I'm going to break this podcast into about 3 sections. I'm going to talk with one of the brothers about each kind of fight, and we're going to go from there. So I wanted to start off going with the top of the card, going with the B-Tech Tyson Fury, Hughie Fury. Starting it off, let's talk about his fight. And Joe, I'm going to call on you a little bit to analyze it with me as well. But I want to say my piece first about Hughie Fury. And I was actually very impressed with Hughie Fury's performance, actually. He gets a lot of stick. He's had a lot of stick in the past for a very young fighter. But I thought against Christian Hammer, he looked good. I think he showed very good boxing ability. Did actually move like Tyson Fury. It looked like, you saw the kind of Fury influence in his style. Thought he was able to switch from southpaw to orthodox very well, and just boxed a very smart fight. Kept Christian Hammer at length, and was never. I don't think was ever really in trouble. Looked good, looked fit, and yeah, good performance. And then eventually got Christian Hammer out of there. So, Joe, what do you make of Fury's performance? Are you equally as impressed as me?
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. Especially on the point about the southpaw, when he sort of switched on the offensive and sort of threw that right hook and then followed up. He had good variation. He landed the uppercut nicely. I also thought he looked a lot bigger. He sort of filled out a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, it was good. There's still, he's not the finished article. He was never hurt, but it was scrappy at points, I think. But no, I thought he had a good variety of punches. Switched up with his footwork.
Yeah, I think variety of punches is a great shout. I saw that as well.
That's where I would rate him most highly.
Use the uppercut every time Hammer came in. Use that uppercut very well.
Tasty.
Double jabs, mixing.
But it was a controlled aggression. He was on the front foot, but it wasn't a rash.
Yeah, because that's something he was getting a lot of criticism about in the past. Was people were like, he just doesn't throw his hands. He's just so infuriating. He just doesn't throw his hands. But
against Parker on the back foot the whole fight.
I think Hammer was the right sort of fighter for Hughie Fury, though, because he moves forward, he throws a lot of punches. I think that is the sort of fighter you want to put Hughie Fury in with. I thought it was a really entertaining fight. I thought kicking off the card with a proper heavyweight tussle. Hats off to Sky Sports and Boxer.
Yeah, and it's for free.
Yeah, it was for free, and it's great to see like a knockout to a dead arm. I ain't seen that very often. That was cool. That was cool. Just reminded me of school. Reminded me of fighting you guys, actually. Like, crying, rubbing his arm at the end of the fight.
He was just like walking around at the end, just like a limp arm. Just like...
We're all three of us, four of us.
Nothing in the face. Nothing in the face.
Yeah.
Good week for the Furies, all round. Good week for the Furies.
Yeah. But I think, going back to what Jimmy was saying, I think that's a very good point. I think it was the perfect fighter for Hughie Fury. Quite one-dimensional, coming forward, not much movement, not much lateral movement, quite easy to hit. And, Christian Hammer, he's outside that top 10, isn't he? And I think Hughie Fury, he wants to be in that mix. But I think it could be a good stepping stone. Could be a good stepping stone. And hopefully we see a little bit more from him. Is there anyone, Joe, you would maybe like to see Fury in with next?
I'm gonna jump in, Joe, because I've got the fight of all fights. David Price, get him back.
Yeah.
The heavyweight division is not the same without David Price. Bring him back.
Yeah.
That's a great shout. That is a great shout.
I'll let Yohan fight David Price if it means he comes back for one more.
Him up. I will fuck him up. Catch weight.
Yeah, you might have to fight on my shoulders, Yohan, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But Joe, have you got one? Have you got an actual fight?
The annoying thing is the fights you want to see him in are the fights he's already had at this point, at 27.
Yeah.
You want to see him against Pulev and Povetkin and Parker because they're the sort of, top 10, but not really well beaters. Get him in there with Dave Allen. That's always going to be good fun. Dave Allen, Dave Price.
I would fuck him up too.
Down the road.
Yeah. I don't know how many more fights Dave Allen's got in him.
Big Daddy Brown. Get him in with Big Daddy Brown.
Yeah. This is like the proper wheelchairs, isn't it? Like Matchroom just.
They'll be going to their 60s as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're all impressed with Hughie Fury. Hopefully he keeps this up. Maybe brings up, we want to see better opponents, but it was impressive stuff. But going over to you, Jim, let's talk a little bit about Eubank. Obviously, before we say anything about the actual fight, a lot of tragedy in his life very recently. So big up to him for, getting back in the ring after what happened with his brother. But, we just wanted to start off by saying that. But with you, Jim, what did you think about Eubank's performance? You impressed?
Yeah, I was really impressed. I think he could go on to bigger and better things with Roy Jones Jr. in his corner.
Yeah.
He looked good for a lot of punches, good movement, nice variation in the shots, good work to the body, broke the chap's ribs. I think he looked really, really good. I think, the thing with Eubank, he's very athletic. He's got a very good engine. And he is a future world champion. I think he's definitely a contender. I hope that he becomes a world champion because I think what you can see is that he's really dedicated himself to the profession. He's so focused, credit to him for fighting so soon after the death of his brother. But you just, when you see him before and after the fight, it's just that utter focus and dedication to the profession. It's quite impressive. And I think, go on.
Well, I was just going to say that obviously people don't talk about his ring IQ. And I'm not saying he demonstrates this in the fights, but when more recently, when I've heard him commenting on his own fights and other fighters, he's a smart guy. He's smarter than I think I gave him credit for, a few years ago. So I got a lot of time for Eubank. Obviously, his father's a legend. We all love his dad, but he's really filling those shoes. He's beginning to really fill those shoes.
Yeah, because going back to what Jimmy was saying about the dedication and stuff like that, like you have to give props to him for that because, as you know, there's always that comment in boxing about, the silk sheets and coming from a lot of money and stuff like that. Like it's hard to have that drive to stay fit all year round and, put your body through that if you've already come from a fair amount of money. So it's impressive from him. It's, it's refreshing to see a dedication to the sport like that. Yeah. And I think with him, he's now realized what his strengths are. He's fucking shit at boxing. Let's get that straight. Like, I think his jab is pretty poor a lot of the time and all that, but there are certain elements of his game which he could be the best in his division at. Very fast, very powerful, great stamina, as you said. And I think now he's really adapting his game to focus on these elements. And I was impressed with his performance as well. I thought he showed some maturity as well. He's coming up against the opponent. The guy was a slick boxer, a bit difficult to hit, and Eubank quickly adapted his game, saw him round 3, going back, talking again about the IQ, adapted his game, realized I need to go to the body, slow this guy down, did that, and slowed him down, and then broke his ribs and completely changed around the fight. So I was impressed with that. I was impressed with that. It was a good performance from Eubank. Again, he did call out Billy Joe Saunders.
That fight's never going to... Look, I don't think Saunders wants that fight. And I do not think that
fight... Why do you think he doesn't want that fight?
Well, he doesn't... I think he doesn't need it. And, I think he'd only do it for crazy money. He gave a good account of himself against Canelo. He's got a massive paycheck. Eubank is a dangerous fighter. And I think he doesn't want it, is my gut feeling. I don't think he'll fight Saunders.
He's already beaten him. He's already beaten him. He doesn't have, there's no hunger there. And he's already had
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why, you know, he's got that. He knows how infuriating that is for Eubank Jr. that Billy Joe has got that win over him. And he knows that it must irritate him and keep him up at night. You know, Billy Joe got chased around the ring for the final 4 rounds of that fight. He just ran away from him 4 rounds. You know, he got up on the scorecards halfway through, just basically ran away from him. Yeah, and I think he'll be running away from him for the rest of his career.
Yeah. I've got no evidence to support this statement, but I definitely feel like Saunders has got 1 foot out of the game. He's got 1 foot out of the game. And I think as soon as that happens in boxing, it's just the most unforgiving sport. And, you know, fighters that you think you're on the same level as soon as you show that kind of, I'm not sure if I want to do this.
In fairness to Billy Joe, he's got paid a massive multi-million-pound paycheck against Canelo. He's fought the pound for pound, one of the greatest fighters of all time. He's already been money with you, Jim. He's already been world champion.
What about fucking glory? What about glory? What about glory?
Where's the glory if you can't? Canelo is the holy grail, Johan. That is the holy grail. There can be no glory unless you do that.
What's
he got left to prove? He's
he
been
didn't slay the dragon.
There's no glory in getting beaten by a ginger, mate. No glory in that. No glory in that. But yeah, I think the fight they kept talking about a lot was actually Golovkin. And I think if I was Eubank's promoter, I would be calling that guy up every day, calling up Golovkin's promoter every day saying, I want to make that fight. I'll pay you whatever you want, because Eubank beats Golovkin. He's on the way out, Golovkin, and I think Eubank does beat him. And it's a brilliant name to have on the record. I think so. I think so.
Wild statement.
I think he could. I think he could beat Golovkin. I think, you know, maybe another 2 years.
Golovkin is nearly 40 years old.
Golovkin is nearly 40. Maybe push it back another 2 years. He fights Golovkin. I think he could do him. If he good training camp. I think he could do him. And even if he doesn't, I think, you know, it's probably going to be a very competitive fight and a good name to have on the resume. That's what I would probably go for.
Well, he's got a world title still, hasn't he, Golovkin, at middleweight? So it would be
it would, the
IBF. I think
I'm not actually sure. I don't actually know. I need to check that. But I'd be going after the Golovkin fight. I think that'd be the best move. Or Billy Joe. But we'll see. He is saying a big fight is coming out in round coming into the next year, December time. So, you know, he's had a few easy fights, so hopefully he gets something big. But anyway, let's finish it off with Savannah Marshall. Brilliant performance from her. It was a bit of a scrappy first round and second round. Anyone could have gone at one point, and then Marshall just absolutely flatlined her. What did you make of that, Jan? Impressive?
It's hard for me to talk about it, because when you're in love, it's hard to be objective. But she knew what was coming. She was fighting a one-dimensional fighter. She knew that was how the first round would go. So I think it was a great performance, but she knew what was coming, and she dealt with it, and she dealt with it very, very well. I don't think she's had the opportunity to kind of show whether she can adapt when things aren't going her way. But all that being said, you can see clearly the influence of Peter Fury. But I think she actually executes his style more effectively than Hughie Fury. I think she moves better and she hits harder than him. I got an enormous amount of time for her. She's an amazing fighter. And in my mind, I know she hasn't had the challenges or maybe the caliber of opponents that other fighters have had. But if she had had that, then I would say that when people talk pound for pound, you have to start including people like her. I know she said herself post-fight that she's a woman in a man's game. And yeah, she is, I guess. But some of the skills that she's displayed, it's just a question of who she's displayed them against. Because a lot of fighters can look amazing against mediocre or not as good fighters.
Yeah, remember Josh Kelly. Yeah? Remember Josh Kelly?
Josh Kelly's a perfect.
People thought he was the next Nassim Hamid, the way he was moving around.
And I fancied him too, right? So, you know what I'm saying? But yeah.
And I think that is one of the curses for female boxers. A lot of the boxers, a lot of the time, is the fact that sometimes it's difficult to find a lot of opponents and a lot of opponents of high caliber. So it's difficult to get the recognition, as you say. You know, Katie Taylor, no one ever spoke about her in the pound for pound list, but when she was, you know, at her peak, she should have been mentioned around that.
Yeah.
But it's refreshing to see that, you know, they are putting a lot of money into female boxing. It is definitely growing in popularity. I think people are giving it a lot more time. And UFC really have laid the blueprint, haven't they? They've shown, look, women can be superstars in a combat sport as well. And I think, you know, boxing in a lot of ways is kind of a bit behind MMA. And I think they should follow on. And I think they will follow on with MMA. And I think it will become a lot more popular. But I
think with the Savannah Marshall fight, though, that was like a very entertaining fight. Like that was, you know, it was constant action. It was frenetic throughout the fight. And, you know, it was over quick, but I still felt like I got my money's worth.
Yeah, so all the fights were stoppages. All the fights we spoke about have been stoppages, all in different.
It's one of those, but it's one of those things that when you looked at that card, like, I don't think anyone's going, oh, that's a mouth-watering card. But to be fair, like Jimmy's saying, that's all of those fights were entertaining. I enjoyed all of them.
Yeah,
good night of boxing.
Yeah, I think it was really good night of boxing, especially not pay-per-view, as we said at the start. And kind of, you know, when you did see it firsthand, you're a bit like, you know, no, I wasn't too sure about it, but it did live up. And I thought it was a good card. But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. We've spoken about all three of the fights. Obviously, there were a few others on the card, but we just didn't have time to get into everything. But thank you everyone for listening. Do you guys want to give a little sign out? Joe, start from you.
I'll start. I'm signing microwaves.
We should have mentioned that. I completely forgot about Eubank and the microwave. No. Anyway, the rest of you, do you want to give a little signing out?
Take care, everyone.
A little bit. Yeah, remember to like and subscribe.
Till next time.
Drop a comment. More podcasts coming every Monday. So thank you and good night.